They came from different worlds with different atmospheric pressure, so they'd be easily spotted. He says this is what lent later on to much of the Greek myth and the folklore about the giants. The Lyrians also are the people who in the past have taken earth people and mixed them with fish and with animals and other things, creating the old stories of mermaids and different things. Those things actually kind of happen. But their bodies, after a few incarnations, will deteriorate down to normal size because of the sun that they're living within. It will come back down. So, no, we can't really. And because we've mixed up 7 or 8 races on Earth that are now even more than ever beginning to intermarry and mix up, there's another big problem, which I'll explain after the break, about how our spirit doesn't go in the right place. We're doing that a lot. We're getting people out of their normal paths where they're not coming in where they're supposed to and when they're supposed to. And that causes problems and puts them within different families where they're out of step and so forth. So there are things that are going on. And I'm going to
explain that to you in natural order on the second part here a little bit.
Yeah. You get 2 questions.
Yeah. Hopping the Atlantic, what's your current feeling on the Florida connections that you've worked a little bit on the past? And if you're still in contact with it or feel good about those connections in Florida, has there been any kind of mental communications that have come through?
He's referring to a case I looked into in Miami, Florida a couple of years ago. There was a fellow that came forward, said he was having contacts with the Pleiadians, and had some pretty good pictures. Some of them, the pictures were good. Some of the others looked very homemade. The pictures that I liked, I listened to his story and put a video out called The Miami Contacts, and as things will go sometimes in life, made a little error there. Tape had only been out about 6 months when I discovered that 3 of the pictures at the end were fakes, and that the craft that was supposed to be flying along beside him down the freeway wasn't a craft at all. Instead, it was a blimp from Virgin Lightships in Orlando, Florida. So I kind of stepped in it there. So when I found that out, I confronted him with it, and things didn't go well from there. They went downhill even more. As I found out, the person who helped him put together the videotape he supplied me came forward and said, well, he cut out the strings on the other part and did video effects. Those were fake. As it came down, it looks more and more like the gentleman had 1 or 2 contacts, the early pictures, which I liked to begin with, and I don't think they ever came back. And after that, I think he's taken, like some people will do, to manufacturing them for personal gain or for personal, recognition or whatever. And since I've gotten to that point where I just told him, left it kind of open, says I would love to examine your case more if you can supply, genuine negatives and so forth and proofs we need to really look at the case. But at this point, it looks to me like you're just manufacturing things and make it up. So I'm not wasting any more money on it until, whatever. So I've just kind of left it open, and nothing's happened for the last year or so. Yeah?
Yeah, I used to be into making pyramids years ago. I built some rather good size. I had a 3/4 inch copper plumbing pipe and followed many books on it. That pyramid phenomenon, it's supposed to sound very good. Do you have any
no pipes over there.
Size of the plans or what they actually did?
The pyramid itself, you can't stand up in it. It's probably this high, and it's solid copper. There's no tubes. It's a solid copper frame. Really, the solid ones are the only thing that really work. The tube ones are very, very mild, and the effect is not very strong. But the dimensions are same as the Great Pyramid, the standard pyramid geometry. It's a 4-sided pyramid, just like the Giza Pyramid. The top of it, though, has a little device on it. It's an accelerator that accelerates the mind waves. So when you meditate stronger and deeper, quicker. So you're out of time within seconds. You don't know where you're at, and you're not allowed in it unless you have the buddy system. Somebody has to watch you go in, and the timer's put on, and they watch you. I wasn't that good, but a couple of the people there at the center float when they get in. After about 10 minutes, their bodies get to such a high state, they start twisting, and they're just turning around in the air. And they have to be on a timer to bring them back down. They watch their bodies so they don't fall on their head and things like that. So some of them are quite astute at it, much like the people in the East are at it. The accelerator is no longer there. It was taken from Billy. The Pleiadians took it back. They made it for him and provided it. They took the accelerator back, so it's no longer on the pyramid. But this pyramid's solid copper.
So it's solid, all the walls, and it's like a little entrance.
Yeah, you go underneath.
It's copper, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you crawl underneath, and you come up inside of the pyramid and sit down on your little pad and get into position so your head's 2/3 of the way up, the critical spot there where the waves come in. The function of a solid pyramid is to block out the world. See, all of us are broadcasting all the time with our minds, but we're not used to listening to other people's thoughts. Instead, our fields protect us from that so we don't hear it. So my point is that we are living amongst everybody else's broadcast, and plus all the stuff that's in the air all the time, from radios and TV and everything else that's in the air. but you're just not consciously aware that your mind has to defend itself from all these field energies, as well as properties that are moving in the universe. The function of a solid copper pyramid, once you get in, and the reason it's copper, that's the best defense against other kinds of field energies. So you're isolated more, and that's what you're after. By becoming more isolated, your mind then no longer has to defend or protect itself, so to speak, from outside influences, and then can better do its own work. That's the concept. And then if you have an accelerator, you're no longer, not only are you not protecting yourself, you're turning up the volume on your own mind, so you just move forward on the evolutionary scale about 1,000 years there, or 1,000 lifetimes very quickly, by suddenly being isolated, having your own field intensified. So there's a whole process Billy puts the people in the group through to learn clarity of thought, power of observation, to see things clearly. He doesn't let anybody in the pyramid who emotionally is out of balance, is prone to fears, anxieties. You have to learn to control all that before you're even allowed in it. So it's a whole system of mind and thought, which I'll go over with you a little bit on the next section. And once that's obtained, then you're allowed to use the pyramid, and then who knows where you're going to go from there. So, yeah. No, I never floated around. I'm not that good. But, yeah, over here. They said that they were, after the third year, they told him that expectations were at 32%. That's about where it was at. The contacts were stopped because Billy's health was failing rapidly from trying to control the group around him, which was getting very out of control. Once the people around him learned what was going on, it settled in on them, the levity of what was happening. This concept of being special set in on too many of them, where they thought they were better than everybody else and they'd been handpicked somehow for the planet. And that thinking got carried away and the group just got very out of control. And at that point, they says, we stop at this point. It no longer serves our interest. So to them, in many ways, and they told Billy throughout the 3 years, that much of this is a test to see how people will respond with open contact with us. We'll have physical contact with you. The people that live around you, we will not have physical contact with, but they will be made to know it's for real. We want to examine what happens to the human condition when it tips over, when reality steps in and, you know, takes over your current thinking. And most of the people at the center did not do very well. The original people all became, like, as Billy calls them, pit vipers. All snapping at each other, jealousy, infighting, arguing. Suddenly everybody hated each other, fighting over money, who's sleeping with who, and it became a real nightmare. So Billy was like, stop, stop, stop. This is becoming a madhouse, and then at that point they stopped it. It went a lot longer than expected. Let me show you something. See these tapes? This is Billy's whole 3 years of meetings. There's stacks of paper this high, all of his notes. I took them and put them all on audio tape. This is the whole 3 years of his meetings, and they're in chronological order. As you listen to the tapes, it will tell you, even after about the third or fourth meeting, already they were considering stopping because they could see that it was too fragile for people. It says, we can only take this so far. So they decided to kind of test it out. And all along, all throughout the contacts, they were always very concerned about that. In almost every meeting, they would discuss someone living at the house, how they were thinking. This person is dreaming incorrectly, becoming very fearful. This person is becoming overwhelmed with their ego.